Heartwarming encounter. 75-year-old finds unexpected strength when her son the U.S. attorney faces community crisis. Mabel Thompson stood at the edge of her backyard, watching the early morning sun spill golden light across the tiny Midwestern town that had been her entire world. At 75, she felt every crease in her hands tell a different story, a tapestry of laughter, humility, and love. Widowed years ago, her heart and soul were poured into her only son, Michael. When he made it big as a U.S. attorney, her pride knew no bounds. But lately, a creeping worry tangled with her heartstrings, the kitchen filled with the rich aroma of coffee as she prepared for the day. Old neighbors would stop by, their laughter mixing with the clinking of mugs, each fashioned from memories shared over decades, their collective warmth a shield against the chill of gentrification sweeping through their community. She longed to reach out to Michael, but their conversations felt strained lately, filled with unspoken weight. He was busy, consumed by cases, and each time she saw him excel, the pride tasted bittersweet. He's lost in the big city, she told herself, even as her heart battled with the truth. As she volunteered at the local food bank, another family from her neighborhood was displaced by a looming development. Each heart-wrenching story piled onto her chest, pushing her to confront the reality of her beloved town changing before her eyes. "This is not progress," she murmured, feeling the soft tears that threatened to spill over. Then, it happened. A scandal erupted about powerful housing developers rallying for more buildings, and families were suddenly at risk. Mabel felt the ground tremble beneath her. And there was Michael, caught in the middle. He stood as the law pawn in a game where humanity was the price. At the community meeting, the room buzzed with anxiety. Mabel's heart raced as she perched in the front row. She could see Michael at the front, a well-put-together image of authority, but inside he struggled, surrounded by people who felt neglected and scared. Mabel's mouth felt dry, her chest tight. She wouldn't let this moment slip away. "Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen." Now let's continue with shaking hands. Mabel stepped up to the podium. "My son, Michael," she began, voice trembling yet unwavering, "has always been the best of us. But we must not lose our roots in the name of progress." Her heart swelled, pulsing with emotion. The air thickened with anticipation, their shared breath caught in a poignant silence. As her words flowed, she could see her son's eyes flicker with the memory of bedtime stories, his small hands wrapped around her fingers tight, that same worry now reflected back at her. Would he open his heart to her words or tread the path to ambition that ripped them apart? Mabel's voice rang out, echoing in the hearts of the crowd. The unspoken ties of love and history bound them together, mounting hope in the face of despair. Would this moment of clarity move him? Could they bridge the rift that had formed under the weight of ambition? As Mabel stood there, waiting, she sensed the answer teetering on the edge. Would Michael reclaim the roots of their family or turn away? The air crackled with uncertainty, leaving them both hanging in a fragile balance. Mabel's heart pounded in her chest, a relentless drumbeat that echoed the fears and hopes tumbling through her mind. The crowd's expectant silence felt like an eternity, each breath hanging between them. She could see Michael shift slightly, his gaze locked on hers. A flicker of recognition passed between them, a shared memory artfully blending their past with the pressing present. "Mom," he whispered, breaking the stillness, his voice barely audible yet laced with emotion. Michael, listen." Mabel interrupted gently, gathering her strength. "These families, they're suffering. They're our neighbors, our friends. They matter. You fought for justice your whole life. Now, they need you to stand with them. This development isn't progress, it's a heartbreak." His brow furrowed, and she could see him grappling with the complexities of his position. The law was his world, but Mabel cherished a connection that couldn't be codified. The tug-of-war inside him was painfully visible. He clasped the edge of the podium, as if grounding himself amid the swirling emotions. Voices began to rise from the audience, murmuring encouragement. Mabel felt their hope, their trust in Michael. "You have to embrace your heart, son. You promised me you'd never abandon what's right for what's easy," she urged. "Remember when you used to climb that old oak tree and dreamed of changing the world? This is your chance." Michael looked around, absorbing the weight of the crowd's expectations. A wave of determination flickered in his eyes, battling the hesitation. I don't know if I can win this," he finally confessed, glancing at the faces of despair surrounding him. The crowd tensed, a collective intake of breath in unison. "You can, sweet boy," Mabel said softly, stepping closer to him. "You've always had the power, you just need to believe in it. For all of us, for the home we cherish and the lives intertwined in this community. You have an opportunity to bridge the gap. Not just with the law, but with compassion." Suddenly, tears blurred her vision. She felt fragile yet fierce, a mixture of vulnerability and hope that surged within her. Michael's gaze softened, and the barriers crumbling around them felt palpable. A single tear slipped from his eye, tracing a path down his cheek, one that spoke louder than any words he had exchanged with her recently. The audience seemed to lean into the moment, their collective heart waiting. Mabel sensed a shift, a pivot where purpose would make itself known. "Mom, he began again, and for the first time, his voice held conviction. "You're right. We can fight for this for them." The whisper rippled through the crowd, igniting a spark of hope among the weary faces. Cheers erupted, breaking the tension, washing over Mabel like sunshine after a storm. It felt electric, a transformation unfolding before her eyes. She clasped her hands together, heart bursting with pride. This was her son, a man forged in love, ready to rise to the challenge. Yet, as applause filled the room, a shadow passed over Mabel's heart. What would be the consequences of this decision? Would Michael face backlash from the powerful interests that backed his career? The thought wrapped a chill around her hopeful warmth. Her joy mingled with anxiety, a haunting question hovering above their celebration. Would he remain steadfast when the struggle began? As she searched Michael's face, determination shimmering in his eyes, she realized that their journey had only begun. It wasn't just about saving their town but rekindling the bond between a mother and her son forged in honesty and love. Mabel took a deep breath, ready to embrace the challenges that lay ahead. And just then, a member of the audience rose, demanding answers about the very system Michael was so intricately woven into. The air thickened once again, as tension seeped back into the room. Would this newfound strength withstand the storm brewing outside? The stakes were higher than ever, leaving Mabel with a pressing worry. Could they truly change the tide, or would it sweep them away in its relentless current? Michael straightened, the applause still echoing around him, but his heart felt heavy. He faced the member of the audience, a woman with furrowed brows and weary eyes. She looked like so many others, genuine, concerned, desperate for change. "Do you really think you can make a difference? You're a part of the system that does nothing for us." She spoke with an urgency that cut through the room. The atmosphere crackled with tension, every eye drawn to Michael. He swallowed hard, his throat suddenly dry. I know it feels hopeless," he began, his words tentative like a child taking their first steps. "But I can't turn my back on the people I grew up with. We need to work together." Mabel felt a rush of pride mixed with fear. Her son was standing up, but would it be enough? The woman's anger was palpable, her accusation challenging. "Standing up is great, but we need action. Can you really fight the developers who are destroying our homes for profit?" A murmur of agreement rippled through the crowd, voices chiming in, each person sharing their fears and frustrations. Mabel watched her son, the boy who once shared laughter and dreams under that oak tree, now a man grappling with the weight of a flawed system. He took a deep breath, his face revealing a shift. "You're right," he said, his voice growing stronger. It's not just about what I can do alone. It's about creating a united front. Cheers erupted again, and Mabel's hope soared, only to be tugged back by the underlying anxiety. Michael was awakening something, but what if he couldn't follow through? What would happen when the focus turned toward him, when he became the target of those powerful interests? I promise I will involve you, all of you, he said, gesturing to the audience. We can approach this as a community. I want to hear your stories, your struggles, and I want to fight to ensure your voices are heard. The crowd responded with applause, but Mabel noticed the woman from moments before still crossed-armed, skeptical. She slid her hand onto the podium, feeling the cool wood against her palm and imagining the warmth of Michael's dreams mingling with the fears of the people. The room was alive, tension shifting away, replaced with a strange mix of hope and hesitance. "Mom," Michael turned to her, a flicker of doubt still lurked in his eyes. "What if I can't make it happen?" She knew this moment could change everything. "You will, Michael. Remember who you are. You're the boy who never backed down from a challenge. Use that strength now." The warmth of the crowd filled her heart, yet a nagging fear burrowed deeper. How would they face the opposition? Her thoughts ricocheted as she considered the steps they needed to take. There were no easy roads, only hard work ahead. Yet she felt an unmistakable shift in the air, a change on the horizon, powerful and unpredictable. Just then, as voices filled with optimism rang through the hall, a hush fell abruptly. A figure stepped into the spotlight, an imposing man in a tailored suit, with an air of authority that silenced the murmurs. He surveyed the crowd, eyes sharp as he sought out Michael and Mabel. "Let us have a real conversation here," he boomed, his voice echoing with a magnetic power. "What do you really think you can accomplish against the tide?" Gasps flitted from the crowd, and Mabel's heart raced. That was it. A challenge thrown. The undertow was here, and Michael was standing on the precipice. She didn't know if he was ready for this confrontation, or if the connection they had built would sustain them through the storm ahead. "What have you got to lose?" Michael's soft murmur broke through her thoughts, glancing at her then back at the imposing figure. The stakes were rising. This was no longer just about the town. It was about integrity, family, and the power of standing together. But could they keep that spirit alive when darkness threatened to swallow them whole? With this pivotal moment, the air thickened again with uncertainty. Mabel's heart brimmed with worry. What deeper truths awaited them in this battle, and would their collective resolve withstand the ruthless scrutiny about to unfold? Michael stepped forward, heart pounding in his chest, a voice rising above the whispers. "You might not believe in change, but I do. I have seen our community struggle, felt the pain seep into our very bones. And I'm here to do something about it." His words filled the room, resonating with defiance and determination. He locked eyes with the imposing man, a wave of conviction washing over him. The crowd leaned in, captivated by the spark igniting in Michael's spirit. "Change doesn't come easy," the man countered, smirking with a disapproving shake of his head. "The developers have money and power. You're up against a machine, one that doesn't care about people like you." Michael felt a surge of anger burning inside him. "But we have something they don't, each other. We can organize, we can push back, and we will be heard." His voice echoed through the hall, a rallying cry that hung in the air. Applause erupted from the audience, but Mabel didn't just hear it, she felt it. Their energy was like a current, electric and alive, igniting new hope in her heart. She saw the faces in the crowd igniting with a flicker of belief and unity. But alongside that joy, a gnawing fear crept in. What if this man had the power to squash their dreams before they even began? She turned her gaze to him, searching for an opening, a weakness in his authoritative demeanor. In that moment of doubt, she remembered her son, bright-eyed and full of dreams. He was their beacon in this storm, and she had to trust him. "Michael," she called out, her voice edged with urgency. "We need a plan. We can't just rely on passion. We need strategy. Nodding, he turned his attention back to the crowd. My mom is right. We need to gather stories, compile a list of our concerns. He paused, eyes sweeping the room, seeing both apprehension and eagerness reflected back at him. Who here has been directly affected? Who has seen families lose their homes or businesses? We need those voices. Hands shot up, and people began to gather around him, sharing their tales, their pain. Mabel's heart swelled with pride as she watched her son lead. The stories poured forth like a river, voices rising as everyone shared their experiences, and before long, a bond began to form among them, a bond forged from shared struggles. As each story unfolded, the man in the suit stood watching, his expression darkening. It was clear he didn't appreciate the direction this was headed. Michael noticed the shift too, but he pressed on. Together, we can draft a petition. Series of meetings. Town halls. We can approach the city council. But the man stepped closer, his arrogance palpable. You really think City Hall will give you the time of day? They listen to who pays their checks, not to broken dreams. The crowd murmured uneasily. Mabel clenched her fists, feeling the pressure mount in the room. Each unwanted thought wormed its way into her mind. What if they were just wasting their time? Looking at Michael, she could see the flicker of doubt trying to take hold. But then, he took a deep breath, eyes narrowing just slightly as he declared, every wave starts small. Every fight begins with one step. If we do nothing, we guarantee failure. But if we assemble and speak out, even the tide will have to listen. The crowd erupted in cheers again. This time, it was more than enthusiasm, it was a palpable resolve that seemed to pulse through their hearts. Still, a shadow loomed as the man adjusted his cuffs, an unsettling smile creeping across his face. Very noble of you, but do be mindful of who you're challenging. With that, he turned, striding toward the exit, leaving an ominous chill in his wake. The atmosphere shifted, a weight settling heavily. Mabel's heart raced. Michael, this isn't over. He'll come at us. We need to prepare. Michael looked around at the people who had joined him, their faces a mix of determination and fear. Then we prepare together, he replied. Because together, we're stronger. As conversations erupted around them, Mabel felt hope take root once more. Yet, that nagging fear remained. There would be obstacles ahead. And the looming threat from that man was only the start. As she looked toward the horizon, she couldn't shake the feeling that they were only beginning to uncover the depths of the fight they were up against. What would the next move reveal? Would their resolve be enough to stand up against the storm brewing on the horizon? The energy in the room crackled as Michael stood at the front, the gathered community buzzing with a mix of fear and fervor. Mabel moved closer, her heart pounding in rhythm with the conversations swirling around her. Each face she saw was a canvas of emotions: hope, worry, and the unmistakable spark of determination. All right, everyone, Michael began, arms raised slightly to capture attention. We need a name for ourselves, something that represents what we stand for. Community United. Someone shouted from the back. Mabel smiled, catching the enthusiasm that spread like wildfire. Yes. United we stand. She echoed, her voice cutting through the haze of anxiety that clung to them. Community United. They all chanted, bringing the hall to life. The man in the suit had left, but his dark presence still hung over them like a thick fog. The meeting stretched on, ideas flowing freely as they mapped out their campaign. Michael's leadership shone, each suggestion embraced, every voice heard. They divided into smaller groups to tackle different issues: housing rights, local business support, and public outreach. The room transformed into a buzz of purpose and energy. As the meeting wrapped up, Mabel caught a moment to pull Michael aside. You're doing great, but we need to consider the worst-case scenario, she urged softly. What if the developers retaliate harder than we expect? Michael's expression turned serious. I know, Mom. But if we don't do this, if we don't fight, they win without ever knowing our names. Just then, a frail woman stepped forward. Mabel recognized her as Agnes, a longtime resident whose flower shop had been a cornerstone of the community. "I have a story," she said, her voice trembling. "I've lived here for 50 years, and now I've received a notice that my shop is on the list to be demolished. I can't lose my home, my second family." Her eyes glimmered with unshed tears. Mabel felt a knot tighten in her throat. "You won't lose it, Agnes. We'll fight for you. Together." More stories emerged, each heartbreaking and real. The stakes were becoming personal. Each tale added another layer to their united front, fueling their determination. Mabel watched as the community bound together, weaving trust and understanding with every shared hardship. As the evening faded into night, promises were made to meet again, gathering strength in numbers. Michael looked over everyone, a resolve burning in his eyes. "This is just the beginning. We have to prepare for what's next." They won't give up their power easily. Mabel felt a mixture of pride and fear. They were standing on the edge of something big, something that could change their lives forever. But the fear of the unknown weighed heavily on her. Just as they began to disperse, Michael received a text. His brow furrowed as he glanced at the screen. He turned to Mabel, words caught in his throat. It's from a friend who's inside the developer's circle. They're making plans. Big plans." Shock channeled through the crowd, whispers and concerned glances exchanged. Mabel's stomach twisted with anticipation. "What kind of plans?" she asked quietly, her heart racing. Michael replied, "They're about to unveil something we aren't ready for. We need to act fast." As panic rippled through the small group still lingering, Mabel realized they were picking up momentum but also a storm. The fight was escalating, and they had no idea just how deep they were about to plunge. "What's the next step?" she asked, her voice steady, trying to anchor not just herself but everyone around her. Michael met her gaze, determination mingling with uncertainty. "We'll find out. Together." The weight of their challenge loomed, but within that weight was also a flicker of hope. They were more than just a community now, they were warriors stepping into the unknown. Mabel took a deep breath, ready to face whatever came next, no matter how daunting it seemed, and as she stood among her neighbors, the question lingered in the air. What exactly were they up against, and would their gathered strength be enough to stand solid against the approaching tide? The sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows against the hall's walls as the community trickled out. Mabel found herself lingering, the energy from the meeting still alive in her veins. She hadn't expected to feel so invigorated after a night filled with uncertainty and fear. "Hey, Mabel." A familiar voice broke her train of thought. It was Agnes, her eyes still sparkling with resolve despite the weight of yesterday's news. "You alright?" "I'm scared, but there's something different in the air, isn't there?" That simple question sparked a connection between them. Mabel nodded, her heart swelling with warmth. "Yes, different. It's hope, I think. We're not alone anymore." Agnes smiled, and the two women shared a moment where fear seemed to retreat just a little. It was as if each word exchanged bolstered their courage. Suddenly, Michael's voice cut through the chatter as he stepped outside, his figure silhouetted against the fading light. "Everyone. Can I have your attention again?" He gestured for them to gather back around, the sense of urgency clear in his tone. They slowly reformed a loose circle, curiosity piqued. "I just got a call from my friend," he said, his breath steady despite the storm of emotions swirling around them. "The developers are planning a big public meeting to announce their vision for the community. It's happening next week." A wave of murmurs rippled through the crowd. Mabel felt her stomach drop. "They're trying to make this sound like it's a good thing," she whispered to Agnes, who nodded in agreement, her brow furrowed. Michael continued, "They'll try to sway public opinion with fancy words and pretty pictures. But we know the truth, it's about profit, about displacement, not development." A chorus of agreement erupted. Mabel felt her heart race again. They were all on the same page, and it felt right. But then came the fear. "What do we do now?" she blurted out. "We need to mobilize," Michael said, energy reigniting in his voice. "We must gather our stories, every single one of them. They won't drown us out if we stand together. We'll organize a counter-meeting, a chance for everyone affected to speak out." Mabel's mind raced. She knew the importance of those stories. "I'll help," she offered wholeheartedly. Gratitude flashed in Michael's eyes. "Thank you, Mom. We need every voice, especially those who've lived here, seen the changes over the years." Agnes chimed in, "I'll bring my friends from the flower shop. They can share how we've all helped each other through tough times." The group began buzzing with ideas and plans. They discussed pamphlets, flyers, and reaching out to local media. Mabel marveled at how quickly determination spread. It was beautiful to watch, like wildflowers blooming after a rain, but just as they started planning details, Michael received another text. His face turned pale as he read the screen, bringing the chatter to a halt. "It's the developers team. They're coming to our community tomorrow, to spread their message. They want to catch us off guard." Mabel's breath hitched. "What do we do?" Michael's chin jutted forward, filled with resolve. "We fight back. We can't let them define our home for us." Mabel felt a rush of adrenaline. This was their moment, the moment to stand firm and show their community's worth. But just as they rallied together, a thought nestled in Mabel's mind. Was all this enough? Would they be ready for the developers' polished words, their convincing promises? As Michael called for more plans, Mabel looked around, spotting the worried yet hopeful faces of her neighbors. She couldn't help but wonder. How would they rise to this unexpected challenge? And would their collective strength be enough to make a real change? Mabel woke up the next morning with a knot in her stomach. The sun peeked through her curtains, casting warm patches of light across her cozy living room. But all she could think about were the developers, looming over her community like dark clouds. Their polished suits and scripted promises felt intimidating, and she feared it would only take one glance at them to crumble like a cookie under pressure. As she brewed her coffee, the scent filled her home, offering a moment of calm before the storm. She envisioned the meeting, the faces of her neighbors tangled with trepidation and determination. Mabel took a deep breath, steeling herself for the day ahead. "Coffee's ready," she called out, hoping Michael would join her. He was still living with her during the upheaval, and it provided her with both comfort and anxiety. He strolled into the kitchen, his face showing the same mixture of excitement and worry. "Are you ready for this?" he asked, pouring himself a mug. "As ready as I can be," she replied, trying to muster a smile. They sat together at the small table, the ticking clock amplifying the silence between them. Mabel tried to find the right words, something reassuring, but all she could think about was the looming confrontation. "Mom, remember what we talked about," Michael said gently. "We have to tell our stories. It's what makes us strong. Look at everyone coming together. This is about our home." Her heart swelled a little at his words. He was right, this was about their home. "I know, but what if they have all the answers?" she replied, her voice barely above a whisper. "They don't have the truth. We do." He leaned forward, his eyes filled with intensity. "You've lived here longer than anyone. You know this place better than they do." Mabel nodded. The corners of her mouth turned upward ever so slightly. Today was about being heard, about standing against the tide of progress that threatened to wash over her community. As they approached the community center later that day, Mabel felt a swell of solidarity among the gathered crowd. The atmosphere buzzed with nervous energy, but it wasn't purely fear anymore. It was determination. Every face she saw was ready to stand tall. Michael stepped up to the podium as the developers began to set up their display. "We're starting our own meeting right now," he declared, his voice ringing with authority. Cheers erupted from the crowd, lifting Mabel's spirits. But in the back of her mind, doubt still nagged at her. Suddenly, an older woman from down the street stepped forward. "Mabel, I want you to speak. You have so much to say." Mabel froze. Her heart pounded like a drum in her chest. She had not expected this moment. "Me?" she managed to squeak out, but the longing for expression surged within her. Michael nodded encouragingly. "You have a history with this place no one else can match. Your voice matters." With a deep breath, she stepped up to the mic. The warmth of the crowd wrapped around her, lending her strength. She felt her mind racing. But as she glanced around at her friends and neighbors, their eyes sparkling with encouragement, she realized this wasn't just about her anymore. "Okay, I'll try," she whispered, a smile breaking through her unease. Mabel's first words came hesitantly. But with each sentence, more warmth filled her, like the sun breaking through the clouds. "This is our home, where we've built lives and woven dreams." As she spoke, all doubt began to fade. She could see the developers roll their eyes, but it didn't matter. Her community was listening, and she was ready to fight for them, ready to fight for a future that kept their stories alive. But just as she was gaining more confidence, a sharp voice called from the back of the room, drowning out her thoughts. "You're nothing but a bunch of old-fashioned dreamers." Mabel's heart plummeted. The reality began to sink back in. How would they truly stand against such cynicism? "Who's going to believe you?" The voice was cold and mocking, a challenge meant to shatter their unity. With her pulse racing, Mabel took a step back, feeling the crowd tense up around her. Would they hold together, or would this moment slip away like grains of sand? She looked to Michael, and his expression told her everything. They had to keep going, despite the fear, despite everything. What would they do next? Could their voices truly prevail against such negativity? Mabel inhaled sharply, trying to find the strength within her as the harsh words hung in the air. She felt the tension ripple through the crowd. Michael's eyes never wavered from hers, urging her to push back against the wave of doubt. "Let us not forget, we're more than just dreamers," she finally responded, surprising even herself with the confidence in her voice. "We're the heart of this community. We've lived through storms and droughts together. We've built and rebuilt." The energy around her shifted, neighbors nodding in agreement, their expressions tightening with resolve. The mocking voice didn't let up. "You live in the past. This is progress." Mabel's heart raced, but something within her sparked. "Progress doesn't mean forgetting who we are," she retorted. "We've nurtured this place. We've invested our lives here. It's our memories that make it alive." Cheers erupted from the crowd. Mabel's voice grew stronger, fueled by their support. Memories flooded her mind: children playing in the park, barbecues in backyards, the sound of laughter mingling with the chatter of neighbors. This was their story, stitched together over decades, and nobody could take that from them. The developer's skepticism washed over her like a wave crashing into a steadfast rock. "You think this is just a project?" she asked, meeting the man's glare. "You're wrong. We're not just buildings on a map. We're families, relationships, histories intertwined." Michael stepped beside her, his youthful energy radiating. "We're here to remind you of that," he declared, his voice mingling with the highs and lows of the moment. "You might have your plans, but we have our passion. We're not going anywhere without a fight." Mabel felt a knot of pride form in her throat. Together, they made a formidable team. The audience began to chant, a rhythmic echo of their unity building around her. "Our homes. Our voices." Mabel smiled, feeling each chant reverberate through her. The developers, though still confident, had begun to mutter among themselves, uncertainty flickering across their faces. It felt like an awakening. Her community was more than just spectators, they were crucial to the fight ahead. Then a soft voice broke through the cheers, a neighbor from farther back. What if we organized a community meeting? We can gather our stories, our history, and present it to them. Mabel's heart soared. There it was, the spark of action they needed. Yes. Let's share our stories, our lives. She called out, excitement bubbling inside her. We'll show them that our past is the foundation for a solid future. The crowd erupted into applause and agreement. Plans were thrown around, ideas clashing and merging like a vibrant tapestry being woven before her eyes. This was the family she had fought for, growing, coming together, and ready to stand strong. However, just as the energy reached a crescendo, Mabel noticed the developers retreating, whispering among themselves, their smug expressions fading into uncertainty. A knot formed in her stomach again. Was it enough? Could they turn this into a lasting conviction? Let us keep building momentum. She shouted, emboldened. This is just the start. As they began to brainstorm ideas for their collective meeting, Mabel caught Michael's eye again, feeling a connection that cemented her resolve. He smiled, his pride shining through the fatigue from the day, but in the distance, one of the developers lingered, casting them a long, calculating look. Are we really ready for the repercussions? Mabel thought, the weight of the day returning. What kind of pushback would they face moving forward? She took a deep breath, ready to face whatever came next, buoyed by hope yet tinged with uncertainty. As the night wore on and plans formed, Mabel couldn't shake the feeling that the real battle was just beginning. Would they be able to keep their unity when the developers fired back? The crowd's laughter rang in her ears, whispers of potential adventures danced in her heart, leaving her eager for tomorrow's challenges but also anxious about the price they'd pay for standing firm. Could they truly band together as one? Would their combined voices be enough to hold the ground they cherished? Mabel could only wonder, standing at the edge of a fight that felt both thrilling and terrifying. The dawn broke with soft hues of pink and orange, the sun's warmth melting away the chill of the night. Mabel stood on her porch, breath mingling with the crisp air. She had barely gotten any sleep, tossing and turning, worrying about what lay ahead. The night's energy still hummed inside her, but doubt crept through the cracks, whispering fears about the developer's plans. As she poured a cup of coffee, the aroma filled her small kitchen, casting away remnants of her unrest. Today was pivotal. Today, they had to demonstrate their unity. She glanced at the old family photos hanging on the wall, memories encapsulated in frames, each one a reminder of laughter, love, and community. Around noon, the first neighbors began to arrive, energetic and ready. There was Martha, her daughter in tow, a bundle of energy with blonde pigtails bouncing behind her. Benny, the local baker, came in with fresh pastries, offering warmth in both food and spirit. The room buzzed as stories began to surf the waves of excitement in the air. Mabel welcomed everyone, standing in front of the assembled group, their faces eager and determined. Thank you for being here, she began, her voice steady. Today, we're sharing not just our stories but our dreams for our community. This is our chance to show them we won't back down. An excited murmur rippled through the crowd. Mabel could feel the energy shift towards something palpable, something real. Children dashed around, their innocence shining through as they played near the old oak tree, the same one where Mabel had played as a child. Who wants to share first? She asked, stepping back as the crowd shifted forward. A hand shot up, a familiar voice filled the room, I can. It was Mr. Thompson, the retired school teacher whose stories echoed with wisdom and humor. He shared tales of school plays, community picnics, and late-night corner store gatherings. His words painted a vibrant picture, each anecdote weaving together fragments of who they were. Laughter filled the room, and Mabel felt her heart swell. As the meeting went on, voices melded together, unfolding a tapestry of memories. Michael chimed in about the day they built the playground together, and Margaret reminded everyone of the winter festival that marked the community's spirit. Each story connected them deeper, affirming that they were more than a collection of houses, they were family. But as they began to form a cohesive presentation for their meeting with the developers, the door creaked open. In strode a tall figure, eyes scanning the room. Mabel's breath caught as Nathan, one of the developers, stepped in. "Hello, everyone," he said, his tone measured. "I wanted to hear what you all had to say." Mabel felt a wave of tension ripple through the crowd. Some faced Nathan defiantly, arms crossed against their chests, while others exchanged wary glances. Yet, she found courage rising within her. "We're here to talk about our community, about our shared history," she declared, focusing on the man standing before her. For a moment, the room fell silent. Mabel's heart pounded. Would he see the value in their plea? Or would he only see numbers and plans laid out on a blueprint? Nathan shifted, appearing more interested than she expected. "I used to come here as a kid, too," he reminisced, the masked professional facade slipping just slightly. "I remember the sense of belonging." Mabel's heart raced. This was it. The moment they had craved a connection. "Then let us redefine what progress means together," she urged. "Let us not erase what makes this community special. We can build something new without losing our roots." The atmosphere shifted again, hope igniting a spark. Mabel caught Michael's eye, his face lighting up with enthusiasm. Could this be the turning point they needed? As the meeting continued, ideas collided, plans rolled out, but the energy remained intense. It felt like they were all teetering on something important, a choice that could shape their future. But just as the discussion reached its peak, Nathan's phone buzzed in his pocket, cutting through the laughter and determination. He glanced at the screen, his expression tightening. Mabel caught at the worry, the distraction. What news awaited him? In that moment, uncertainty loomed large. Was this a sign of hope or a signal of impending trouble? Mabel held her breath, her heart racing, the crowd's energy pulsing around her, or was it about to shatter? As whispers of urgency began to break out, Mabel sensed a turning tide, her stomach churning with anxiety. What would Nathan decide? A battle they thought might lead to victory could easily spiral into despair. And there it was, the real question looming ahead: could their community withstand the storm on the horizon? Mabel's heart raced as she stared at Nathan, the developer whose phone buzzed ominously. It was as if the walls were closing in, the anticipation thick enough to slice with a knife. Was this the moment they'd been waiting for, or was it the beginning of their downfall? The nervous chatter faded into silence as Mabel searched Nathan's face, desperate for a sign of hope. "You've heard our stories," she began, her voice steady and strong. "You know that we are a community, not just a collection of properties." He hesitated, glancing around the room. She could sense the tension shift, the air crackling with possibility. "You want me to believe that your voices could change our plans?" Nathan finally said, his tone both challenging and curious. Mabel straightened, summoning all the courage she had. "Not just voices, our lives are intertwined. We've built this place together through love, laughter, and resilience. We're not asking for much, only that you recognize our worth and listen." The sincerity in her words resonated, and Michael stepped up beside her, the bond of mother and son forged anew in the heart of the battle. "This is about our shared future," he added, eyes blazing with conviction. "We will not back down. We will advocate for our community together." Cheers echoed from the crowd once more, but Mabel's heart remained guarded. What would Nathan say next? Suddenly, he looked down at his phone, a shadow curling over his brow. "I appreciate your passion really," he replied, but there was something in his eyes that made Mabel uneasy. Before she could respond, Nathan's phone buzzed again, and he put it to his ear. "Yes, I'm here. A situation has come up." The room held its breath, the weight of the moment hanging heavy. Mabel felt sweat trickle down her back. Would the news be another blow, another risk to their community? As Nathan spoke, a slight grimace creased his features, and Mabel took a gamble, stepping closer. "Nathan," she said softly. "What is it?" He looked at her, surprise flashing in his eyes. "It's complicated," he said, lowering his voice. "But there are factions within our company. They don't care about the community, only profits." Realization hit her like a wave. "Then join us. You have a position to change that narrative. You can help." She could see the dilemma etched on his face, the battle between loyalty to his company and the connection he once had with the community he grew up in. A flicker of something crossed his face. Was it vulnerability? "You don't understand," he replied, frustration spilling over. "Power doesn't bend easily." "I know it doesn't," she said, heart pounding, voice rising with passion. "But courage isn't about yielding, it's about finding ways to push back." For a heartbeat, it seemed as if the room itself inhaled, waiting for Nathan's next move, a drama unfolding like a scene from a movie. Mabel could only hope he'd recognize the opportunity before him. He sighed, his gaze traveling over the faces of her neighbors, people who meant so much to her and who each held a piece of her heart. "I'll think about it." Hope flickered like a candle in the breeze. "That's all we can ask for," she replied, feeling a lightness spread through her chest and a tremor of excitement ripple through the crowd. But then an older gentleman in a suit stepped forward from behind Nathan, crossing his arms with a scowl. "Let's be real. This is just a development project," he sneered. "People like you don't understand the costs. Financial realities matter." The crowd murmured again, a wave of uncertain anger washing over them. Mabel could feel people tense, but she also sensed a shared determination rising to the surface. "You're right about costs," she pointed out, voice strong against the jeers. "But consider the cost of losing our community. What will financial gain matter when there are no longer neighbors to share our lives with? You are measuring wealth with dollars, but we measure it with memories, with connection, with belonging." Cheers erupted once more, and she watched their hearts swell, courage radiating like a beacon. "It's your choice, Nathan," Michael added, his resolve palpable. "Stand with us or accept a future where this community is nothing but a memory. You can help steer this ship towards a future where we all belong." Nathan crossed his arms and looked deep in thought. Mabel could see the struggle reflected in his eyes, but behind him, the other developers looked unsettled, their power evidently challenged for the first time. "Fine," Nathan said slowly, finally relenting. "Let's schedule a follow-up meeting. I'll talk with the board. We can incorporate some of your ideas into our plans. But no promises." "Thank you," Mabel exclaimed, heart soaring. "But if I do this, I will need your help to convince them it's worthwhile," he finished, his tone a mixture of urgency and hope. "It won't be easy." "Nothing worthwhile ever is," Mabel replied with a smile, feeling the warmth of possibility spread through the room. They left that moment full of life, each neighbor eager to stand firm for their future. Plans for the upcoming meeting buzzed in the air as Mabel and Michael exchanged glances, their worries now gleaming in the light of hope. As twilight settled over the horizon, Mabel felt transformed. Where once fear had weighed her down, now love for her community fueled her forward. She and Michael shared a knowing look, their bond fortified by the trials they faced together. "Are you ready for this?" he asked, teasingly raising an eyebrow. "Ready as I'll ever be," she replied, heart racing. Together, they would fight. Together, they would grow. And together, they would reclaim their community in the face of uncertainty. So they walked, hand in hand, toward the future. And just as she thought the chapter was closing, a spark ignited in her spirit, reminding her with every step that they were more than fighters. They were dreamers, united by love, determined to reshape their world. As the night unfolded, she whispered into the cool breeze, "This is just the beginning." Now, more than ever, Mabel knew they could embrace the storm. If you're feeling this story, if it resonated with you, subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and show your support. Comment your reactions and feelings about this ending this transformation. And share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this inspiring journey. Don't wait not even one more second to share. Only true fans understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions.